Welcome, and thank you for listening to the first ever episode of Leaps and Bounds. I'm your host, Tom Bash, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you conversations with some of the most successful CEOs, sales leaders, and home improvement professionals. You know, when I started in this industry 20 years ago, tearing off roofs, I had no idea about what went into making a home improvement business successful. Now, having met with thousands of contractors, helping them adopt technology, and watching them grow, I'm excited to invite them in to share what's made them successful, what they're doing today to stay ahead of their competition, and the advice they have for others. On this episode, I'm joined by Patrick Fingles, CEO of NuLook Home Design and Leap. As an early adopter of technology and an industry leader, we'll discuss how Patrick runs two successful companies, what his day-to-day challenges are, what he's doing from a sales and marketing perspective that's helped NuLook rank as a top 50 home improvement contractor in the country, along with much, much more. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you do, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and let others know that they should listen too. Let's get this show started. I'm joined today for the first ever Leaps and Bounds podcast by no other than the Patrick Fingles. Patrick, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You ever been introed as the Patrick Fingles?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, that's how I pretty much walk in the room, and they're like, please welcome the Patrick Fingles.
First of all, I'm excited to really have you on and to learn more about who you are and what's made you successful. But I got to say, let everybody know, Patrick, you're CEO of NuLook Home Design as well as Leap. And so we'll get into a little bit more of that later. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, I just moved down here from New York, and I didn't realize how famous you were. You're on, at breakfast, you're on at dinner. I see your face everywhere. And so for people not in Maryland, not in maybe Virginia, New Jersey, I know you have some offices there. Mm-hmm. Tell everybody more about you and the business.
Well, I am a Maryland born and raised, probably F-list celebrity. I don't know. I'm definitely not B-list or C-list. Farther down than that, but
I can't believe I got you on for the first ever episode.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for my check.
Yeah.
But, and I got my dressing room didn't have the Patrick Fingles star on the front. But no, anyway. So I'm a Maryland-based, Maryland born, Maryland bred, entrepreneur, I guess you could say. So, early into it, got into business with a lifelong friend, started a home improvement company, worked for another company. They made it just look too easy. So we replicated it, made a lot of changes since then. It's been about an 18-year ride. So we've built a large-scale exterior remodeler specialized in roofing, siding, windows, gutters. And then, I'd say probably about 10 years ago, we had a salesperson come in, just lights out sales guy, man, killed it. Salesperson of the year. He probably killed me for not getting it right, but I think 5 or 6 years in a row. That gentleman's name is Steve Stencil, and he came in and he worked for us, and just super, super, super sharp, brilliant guy. And what he did was he probably about I'd say 7 to 8 years ago, he started to develop what started as a fancy spreadsheet to kind of simplify the process of giving 2 to 3 estimates to homeowners every single day. Right. He was like, he didn't like the sales process being so manually done because it was so, you're doing the same thing every day.
Yeah,
so
monotonous.
Yeah, it's monotonous. So, he started with that. Over about 4 years, we built a proprietary software. It was called Estimate, which kind of coined it that name. Yeah. Steve spearheaded that thing in 2016. It had become so robust, and it was so good. And I don't want to sound cliche or anything like that, but it was too good to keep internally. I mean, we had solved a huge pain point for the industry, And so in 2016, Steve hung his selling hat up, and in conjunction with us, we co-founded Leap, and the product was birthed, and it's been a great success since 2016. We've onboarded thousands of users and thousands of companies, and just it's been a great success. So I'm super thankful and grateful to be so kind of immersed in the home improvement space. So.
Right. Now, I know being CEO of one company is hard enough. How do you manage being CEO of 2 companies?
kick ass. No. So in the home improvement business, I have co-founded that business with a lifelong friend and partner, Tom Burry. He's the business's president. That business is 17 years young. So we have a pretty solid established leadership team there. So we were just at a point where, I can allocate enough time to support Leap as well. The other recipe for this is really managing out your leadership team. To be a really good CEO. I'm not saying it's not countless hours and you work a ton, but having really strong leadership, whether it's a C-suite or just even management level leadership, but having people that are independently motivated. That's really the primary function of a great CEO, is to build a great team. And the result of building a great team is you can do more with your time. So that's what I feel that we've accomplished in both businesses. As you know, we have a great leadership team at Leap.
Yep.
And, it makes it easier for me to have time to balance both.
That's great. Just for a little more perspective for the listeners, tell us, the size of NuLook. I mean, are you 100 employees? Are you doing 2 million, 100 million? What's a kind of...
Well, it depends, whether it's a COVID year or a non-COVID year, whether there's a massive windstorm or whether there's a non-massive windstorm. Sure. No, but there's ebbs and flows in it, in any business. We're around a $30 million enterprise home improvement company, and we average around 100 employees or so, sometimes as high as 130 or 140. And then sometimes in times it might be lower, depending on the environment, what's being dictated, what's happening in the world, right? Yeah. And where the demand is, consumer demand, things of that nature.
Now I want to take one step back and say, how did you ever get into roofing? Like, of all things, nobody I think grows up and says, I want to be a roofer when I get older. So like, how did you end up in this trade?
So here's the thing, I'm afraid of heights, right? So enterprise roofing company's afraid of heights, right? So how does that work? So look, I mean, a product is a product, right? And the thing about it is the process of selling a product and providing exceptional customer service really comes down to like three things. One, hiring the best people. We already talked about that, right? There's somebody that's not afraid of heights, that loves getting on a roof, that I can hire to work for me, right? And then it comes down to, hiring the best people and creating a culture for them to be successful, right? A great sales process and a great marketing process, right? And so if you have those three things, it doesn't matter. The product can be agnostic. It can, it doesn't matter what you're selling.
So it could be like NuLook widgets.
It could be NuLook widgets all day, every day. So it just so happens, why roofing? Well, to be honest, it wasn't roofing. It was why windows, why siding. And then in 2008 for us, the economy hit a rocky road. And windows that were a luxury-based item, we were at a point where the business was either going to take a big step back and a hit because people weren't buying it because it's not a necessity.
Right.
Or we were going to pivot to roofing leads, which for the last, call it 5 years, we had been throwing in the garbage, literally, because we didn't even have a referral program with another roofing company because we didn't like the idea of helping somebody else become successful. So we just torched those leads. And, so when 2008 hit, the roofing leads kept coming and the window and siding leads started to slow. So we took that widget and we plugged it into our sales model. And that's what we did. So if you go, why windows and why siding? Well, I went to work for a company that a friend referred me into that told me I could make some good money. And the decision was simply that easy. And I was just really good at it. I could go into a house and I could sell. And, I could relate to homeowners. And the product that company happened to sell was windows. And like I said, they had a pretty simplistic system. I'm an entrepreneur. So I realized how much money I was making that organization and so forth. And, it didn't take long, about 2 years, to say I'd like to have more growth opportunity. I'd like to do these things on my own. And that's how NuLook was birthed. So for the first 5 years, windows and siding. And then after that, 2008, 2009 ride, we introduced roofing. And then it really just took off. And, now we're about probably a 70-30 mix.
That's great.
Going to roofing.
What's the... for everybody listening, what's kind of the home improvement landscape look like in this Maryland, Virginia, DC area?
Everybody think I'd be lying if I said every market has its own challenges, and I can't pretend to understand the challenges of the markets that I don't serve. Right? So But I can tell you that our market is hot and heavy, literally. I mean, I'm watching the Good Morning America today. They'd probably be out of business if it wasn't for car dealers and home improvement companies, because it's the only advertisement you see. I think we've literally pushed out like Dunkin' Donuts and Geico.
Sure.
It's literally, it's all, the roof is leaking.
Yeah, I love this. In the middle of our podcast here, Patrick's getting dripped on with water. This is great.
And so it's like, I just, there's no star on my door. The introduction was okay, and now the roof's leaking. So, no. Just put it in perspective. This is our space. So, anyway, where were we? What was I saying?
Asking about the landscape in this Maryland, Virginia, D.C. area.
The landscape is thick. I mean, it's thick. It is competitive. It's a strong market in this space. It's the Northeast market. It's we're 20 miles outside of our nation's capital. Right. You have a tri-state. You have Philadelphia as a major metropolis. You have Baltimore. You have Washington D.C. You have Nova, Montgomery County, Howard County. These are some of the wealthiest counties in the nation. So you have a high density of homeowners. You have a pretty solid credit ratings. So that's going to make for a market. On top of that, listen, storm severity has been increasing. We won't get into why, global warming, but we won't get into why, but storm severity has been increasing. So what that does is that's bringing people that typically wouldn't be in this market to the market. So, I mean, the competition is stiff. Yeah. It's really stiff, right?
When you started, was it predominantly more retail here than it is today?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Stormers, we had when aluminum siding dominated the marketplace, there was some storming.
The old Tin Men.
Yep, the old Tin Men. Yeah. You could get some vinyl siding conversions from old hail mix and stuff. Yeah. Half of them were out there throwing ice cubes at the house, right? But anyway,
cover of Time magazine and that whole thing,
right? Right. So that was in Baltimore. Tin Men in the movie is based out of Baltimore.
I didn't know that.
The whole thing shot and filmed in Baltimore with Danny DeVito and forget the Richard Dreyfuss.
Right.
But anyway, no, it was predominantly retail market.
Yep. And why you have an office in Southern Jersey, outside of Philly, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
What was the same demographic there? Same.
Well, new people from New Jersey are a different breed of people, just like all people.
There may be some listening.
No, that's great. Right. I mean, and I think they appreciate that. They don't want to be like everybody else, right? So it's it's not. There's the density. The average household incomes, right? The fact that the market is dominated with asphalt shingles, right? That's all like-minded. But everybody's got different personalities. Even there's a huge difference in personality and buyer trends between people in Nova, Northern Virginia, and simply people that are just closer outside the Baltimore city, out of your maybe Baltimore County, and so we get very diverse buying trends and buying patterns, and we get a very diverse consumer segment here.
Do you train the sales team differently in each market, or are they cued in on different things?
We try to be corporate in that, so we try to be consistent in our selling story and our selling process. But it's really important to have locals that are doing the selling. So, we have people that are located in Nova that are hired in Nova. That Nova is Northern Virginia,
right? That
sell there. And in Jersey, obviously, we're not sending people from Maryland up there. We're hiring local people in our markets, because those people know the markets, they know the personalities. But no, the selling process is the same, because we want to be the authority in how to put a roof on, how to put windows on, and how to sell that.
Yeah. What sort of day-to-day challenges are you facing?
I mean, lead generation is always a struggle.
Yeah.
Right. Finding the best talent. Right. Right now, I mean, if you want to talk about COVID, we can go, that's for a different podcast or a different show maybe. But, there's all those kind of challenges that are happening. But for us, it's constant at the NuLook side. It's a constant, lead generation, and just, hiring, having the right people on staff, continuing to build that staff with the right people, and really just controlling that. It's hiring to the expertise of that. Yeah. We're talking a lot about NuLook now,
right?
But on the Leap side, it's it's similar challenges. Getting ourselves in front of customers. There's plenty of products to choose from. There's lots of softwares. People are trying to figure out how to grow and navigate the business. So, what does our product look like? Which customers can use it? Trying to optimize it, make it very easy for them to use. Working on price points to make sure that it's, we're delivering at a proper a proper price point to our customers and continuing to make sure our product, is the best and it stays the best, right? It's fine that it plays with other products, but we want to dominate the space we're in, and we want to be the go-to point of sale software. So, it's really important that we continue to invest in our products so that, we can stand apart from any competition that's out there.
Yeah, that's great. Switching back, putting your NuLook hat back on now for a minute. What are you doing from a marketing perspective that works really well, and what have you gotten away from? And you can take this from, say the last 18 years or so, or even, within the last year, or even as this pandemic's been occurring.
So, traditional marketing efforts like call center, canvassing, and trade show continue to decline. Sure. We still do them.
Now, was that a result of the pandemic, or was that kind of been
declining kind of before that?
And this kind of accelerated that.
Kind of accelerates that. So for us, it just became a challenge. I'm not speaking for the market. There's companies out there that are successful. I mean, obviously, there's massive companies out there that rely heavily on canvassing. I'm just saying for us internally, it started to become a little bit of a challenge. Broadcast marketing has really been the go-getter for us, and television and radio. I mean, that's where, with radio dominating, is where we do. And then we kind of clean things up with internet. But internet is more of a support vehicle to those broadcast vehicles. So, internet comes through maybe as a lead converter. But when polled, most homeowners would say that what drove them to the internet was a radio ad or a television ad, or both. They just, I hear you and see you all the time on the radio, right?
Yeah, like I do. I wake up, I eat breakfast, there's Patrick talking in my ear.
You get in the car, you're driving to work, there's Patrick in the ear. So, I mean, that's the thing. So it's trying to be out in front of those consumers with the right message, and, just trying to put yourself out there, and you're really just buying that frequency and trying to be top of mind. And there's something to be said for trying to pull people through the funnel a little bit too. Maybe, it's fine when you're top of mind when somebody needs a roof replaced or needs their windows done or needs their siding done. But, there's also people that are considering it but aren't at the buyer's funnel right yet. So can you create messages that pull them through the buyer's funnel? You literally reach up through that thing and a hand comes out. They don't know it because it's invisible buyer's funnel, but it grabs them and yanks them through by their throat and says, hey, get down here. And it's simple. It's the right advertisement, and they come home from work and they say, hey, honey, I know we've been talking about the roof, but I actually heard this thing. Maybe we should look at it now. And to me, that's pulling people through the buyer's funnel. When somebody wakes up and they're like, we got to have the roof looked at, then it's just being at the right place at the right time with the frequency, having that message in front of them.
Yeah, I think, I rent my place, right? I just moved down here. I've got a place to rent, but just from watching these constant messages on TV, I feel like, I need pest control, I need new windows, I need a new roof. And it's like, I don't even own my house, so I can imagine that for homeowners that are constantly seeing these reminders that, when the time comes, if there's an interest, they're going to call you because you're top of mind. Did it, when you started the business, did it look the same? I mean, what was different then? You didn't go and just jump into the broadcast.
Oh, no. I mean, broadcast is expensive. Right. I mean, that's risky. You can't dabble your toe in it. I mean, that's one of the biggest mistakes contractors will make is they'll go and they'll put $2,000 on a radio station. They want to hear themselves on the radio. And the radio stations that are the cheapest are always the radio stations that perform the worst too, right?
Sure.
Not to pick on you like your classic rock stations or anything like that, but you got like your classic rock station. You can get on there for $2,500. You, your family, and friends can tune in and they can hear your name, and it feels great. Right? You can go on cable TV like Comcast and get rotators where you're on like FX and you see your banner come across and you're laying there in bed. It feels great. Not great lead converters.
Sure.
To get into lead conversion, you got to be on news talk, you got to be on sports talk, and you got to be on the right programs. And the problem with those programs is they're the most expensive. Yeah. So if you're not buying the right frequency, save your money and put it someplace else. That's where you do trade shows because it's a little more palatable. I could pay $2,500 to be in this trade show, and I can walk out with 30 or 40 leads, right? I can hire 2 or 3 canvassers to go out and knock on doors, pay those guys $400 a week. And it's low risk. When I write a check for $30,000 to get a broadcast frequency in a market that I need, and it doesn't perform, there's a lot more risk there. Yeah. So you have to be cautious with that. So I know when we started, we did same thing. Everybody, you hire 1 or 2 or 3 canvassers. I was a canvasser. I would go out. I would knock. I'd go out in cargo shorts and I'd knock, and then I'd come back in a suit later that night and pretend they didn't recognize me from the door because I wanted the company to be bigger than that. Yeah. I didn't want
perception,
to be
right? Perception,
one-man band. Like, oh, don't you play the drums too? Like, no, I don't play the drums. That's another guy. Didn't you see the mustache I had painted on? So it's like, no. So, when you get out there and you're doing it, you want to give the illusion of that you're bigger, right? Bigger company. I had 5 different business cards. I had, entry-level sales representative, a project manager, depend on what
Nothing's
customer.
changed, Patrick. You're still wearing multiple hats.
So, that was it. So, it's, you start small and you get out there. We did the canvassing. You do it all yourself.
Yeah, so you've layered these different vehicles on, if you will, as you grow.
Yeah, I think the one thing that, one secret to my success, and I've shared this with people in the space and, on calls is, you dress for the job that you want. We started pretending that we were a bigger company before we won. We saw ourselves as a big boy when we were still considered a small company. So it was like, go talk to, the human resources department. The human resources department was, the co-founder's mom,
sure,
right? That was also did the billing, right? But we coined it. We had human resources processes that I wrote up or that I Googled and downloaded. And we had 4 employees. We tried to always create the narrative that we were a bigger company. And I know the path to success. Everybody's like, how do I generate more leads? How do I generate more sales? Well, there's a big caveat in there. It's like, well, are you presenting yourself like a successful business? I mean, are you doing that? Like, it's like, I don't have an HR department. I got 3 employees. I only do $500,000 in sales. No, you still have to deal with human resources. You still have to bring that to people, right? Whether you have 3 employees, 5 employees, 6 employees. So that's what we always did a really good job of. We used to have a lot of bigger companies would have like President's Club dinners and stuff. Well, we had them with 1 person. It'd be at Cactus Willie's. Yeah. But no lie, we'd have the plaque there and we'd be presenting them the President's Club dinner and we dressed for the job.
And that went on social media then?
And then it went on social media, and then the next President's Club dinner was bigger than that, and it was at a little nicer place, and then before you know it, you're having President's Club dinners in Mexico with 80 people, and it's the spouses are there and everything. So it's that's the best advice I can give. It's like, yes, you want to generate sales. Yes, you want to generate marketing. But the biggest thing you want to do is conduct yourself as a business. Dress for the job that you want before you have it. Conduct yourself like a big business before you are one.
Yeah, that's great advice. So now once you have that lead, I guess tell me what your sales process is like. I mean, what have you done from a sales side from the beginning to now? I mean, how's that evolved and what's it look like today?
So, it's funny. When we started in our sales process, you kind of took what was working. I mean, the recipe's been written. I mean, You got your Dave Yohos, you got your Rodney Webbs, you got all these guys that are out there. So your Zig Ziglars, right? The recipe was there. So you don't have to invent that. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
You spend most of your time on lead generation and you copycat the sales process, right? Simple enough. But as we started becoming a bigger company, I did things. And as I started becoming a better business owner, we started looking at, market perception. We even paid for surveys and focus groups. We brought in branding agencies. And you start to figure out what the marketing consumer trends are. You start to evolve your pitch. And you start thinking about who you want to be as a company. You don't have any individuality, right? Your individuality is that of the industry legacies, right? So how do you start to create that? So our sales process started very simple. You know what works. You've been doing it someplace else. Buy the 10-step selling systems from one of these guys and implement it, and it'll get you there. And I'm not saying that it won't even perform equally as good as whatever you come up with once you've been in business for 20 years. One just feels better than the other. So you start with that, and then like anything else, you evolve. You start to think about what your company's story is. You start to think about what your brand and legacy to be. But at the end of the day, believe it or not, there's still a very simple 10-step selling process that like you can follow that's out there that you can purchase, that's in a book. You can read it. You can implement it, put your own flair as far as your company story into it, and rock and roll on it.
It's kind of rinse and repeat from there.
It's kind of rinse and repeat, yeah.
I got to ask you, so, I started roofing, 20 plus years ago or so, and I remember technology was just non-existent in the industry. Mm-hmm. I'd go out there, I'd measure the roof, I'm writing it down, chicken scratch on paper, and then for me at that age, EagleView came around, and that was new to me. I had never heard of technology in that space, and so we had started adopting that. Now fast forward, 12, 13 years from there, and I feel like there's technology for every aspect of the business. So mm-hmm. How have you adapted and implemented, technology as you've continued to grow?
Well, one thing is, I consider ourselves to be a thought leader in that space because, internally we built one of the most successful technologies I would consider in the space right now. Yeah. Shameless plug. But for us, no, we use about 7 or 8 pieces of technology. Everything from Basecamp to CRMs to EagleView, Hover, we use, all those technologies. company can. And, what I've found is if there's a technology out there that you can use, don't worry about using 100% of it. If you can optimize 30% of it and it makes your business run, people worry about licensing fees and things like that. In the grand scheme of things, it's a very small percentage. Don't get lost in that. People think they have, I got to pick a technology. There's lots of them. Now, It's easier if you can pick one that does everything, but we haven't found that to be successful, right? I mean, you're always going to have weak spots, right? So that's why there's not like one hotel chain and like one restaurant, right? So, for us, it's really been a strategy of saying, okay, where's there a gap? Is there a piece of software or technology out there that can fill that gap? And what's the cost versus the value on that? I mean, what's the reward on it? Sorry. So, I think last time I counted, I swear we used like 8 technologies, all the way down to like Basecamp, which is or like like same as Slack kind of, where you are doing internal company communications. And if you're just going for one company that has everything, you're just not going to get that. So, technology has flooded the industry, and it's flooded for a reason, because it's efficient and it's professional. A lot of people think of technology as inward. I want to get my sales guys selling, better. I want to do this. You really have to think about the consumer perspective on that too. I mean, if you think about it, I did a radio spot the other day, and I was boasting about, I think, a satellite measurement in conjunction with Leap. And this was for NuLook. And I was boasting about how, in the spot literally said, imagine if you went to the grocery store and you pulled the card up to the register and the cashier looked at it and said, how about $100? I was like, I like the sting, sting, sting. Like, I like the scanning process. Right. It feels accurate. Like, I want a receipt.
Yeah, you never question that.
Yeah,
you don't question what the price is on that receipt. Yeah.
So I was like, imagine, think about a consumer that's buying a $50,000 kitchen that doesn't get an itemized estimate. They get, $50,000 in an email. Here's a couple bullet points of what we're going to do. I mean, think about that. And the only reason that's acceptable is because nobody's challenging the notion. Now, as businesses hit the market and consumers start to understand that these features and technologies are out there, people that aren't adopting them, that'd be like going to the grocery store that right now it's like, nah, I'm just going to do cash. And, we just use a calculator and manually type everything up. There was a place for that, and there still is, believe it or not, in some areas of the world and country. Sure. There's a place for that. But to be a massively competitive company in, a non-rural area, conducting business in that manner in a grocery store, you're going to get left behind. Right. So I don't talk about grocery stores, but for us, and that's because consumers demand it. That industry is farther ahead than we are. Right. For us, it's for home improvements and home services, the bar is lower. They expect less. But hey, listen, I'm screaming out there on every news affiliate I can to say, hey, homeowners, expect more, so that I can get companies to onboard these technologies and provide their customers a better experience.
Yeah, and I consider you an early adapter to technology, because I feel like you seek out the technology as opposed to the technology seeking you out. And I know a lot of people's hurdles or that they're scared of technology and the change that it can come with it. I know that this pandemic's kind of sped up some of that change for companies, and they're starting to see that they need this technology, and while this technology actually has a really great benefit to it. But what would you say to companies that are still kind of dipping their toe in the water with new technology?
So like I always say, like on my tombstone, there's a couple things that you could write, right? And this is one of the things that I love. People that are not good at something don't know they're not good at it. People that are not good at something think they're good at it. Those people have no help. There's no helping them. I'll give you an example. A person says, I'm a great chef. They're a terrible chef. They're never going to be a good chef because they already think they're good, so you can't give them any way to get better, right? I meet people all the time that say, man, technology's just not my thing. You're not unable to do it. You just don't want to do it, right? When you say I'm not good at something, that's like the proverbial like get out of jail free card. Like, I'm not good at it. No, you don't have any desire to be good at it. Right. And there is a huge difference in that. I have a close friend of mine that's onboarding a software. I won't name it. I have a close friend of mine that's onboarding a software. She gave me the wrap it up. I feel like I'm on the Oscars now. The music's going to come on. So I got a close friend that's onboarding a product. I won't name what product it is. And he said to me the other day, he's like, I'm not good with technology. I was like, no. You just don't want to do it. And he's like, no, I'm really not. I'm like, no. Because if you're not good at something, I learned how to do it, right? I don't know if you watch G.I. Joe, but not knowing or knowing is half the battle, right? Like, I don't, when you were little, that's the thing. Well, I'm sorry I made the mistake, but now I know. And G.I. Joe would say, knowing is half the battle. So you're not good at technology, so go read yourself a book or download a software and start toying with it, because guess what? You're not good at it. You've just never tried it. So, and I get that for any time anybody ever says to me, I'm just not good at that. I'm like, no, you just haven't tried. Right? So that's like one of my life lessons. I mean, I get my kids with that all the time. Yeah. I just don't know how to do it. But like, no, you've never tried. You don't want to do it. So I think understanding that, like if you're a person that says, no, I don't want to implement technology into my business because I don't feel like it, fine, say that. All day. At least you're being honest with yourself. When you say, I don't want to implement technology into my business because I'm not good at it, no. That's a cop-out. Yeah. Because right now there's somebody that's like, yeah, I'm implementing technology into my business, and I'm fantastic at it, and they're doing a terrible job. That's the problem, right? So it's not knowing that you're not good at something, I guess, is the moral of the story. So, that's the big thing. If you're going to bring technology into your business, and I know this is a little bit of a tech-focused thing because of Leap, and, but if you're going to bring technology into your business, you're not good at it. You just haven't done it before. You'll get good at it. I'm not good at podcasts, but
you're a natural.
If I do them a couple more times, I'll get better at it, right? So I'm able to step into it. It's okay that I'm not good at it, right? So
as we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you for two things. I guess it's one thing. I want to get your advice for new companies that are just getting started in the industry. Mm-hmm. And also advice for companies that are more seasoned, have been in the business, are growing and want to grow. Maybe they're at that 5 to 10 million, in revenue, and they're looking to take the next step. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for those kind of two different segments?
So I got beautiful advice for both. If you're new and you're coming in, listen, aim small, miss small, right? How do we get 2 more leads tomorrow than we got today? Right? How do I have a President's Club dinner with 1 person, and next month it's going to be 2 people? It's going to be 3 people. You just look 1, 2, 3 months down the road, right? And you try to build that. But you have to worry about revenue. You have to worry about leads. You have to worry about sales, because that funds your research and development. It allows you to stay in business another month to become a better business. But you have to very quick start dressing for the company that you want to be, right? So day 1, implement your softwares, right? Figure out who you're going to be using, pay the licensing fees, use your first profits to do that. Again, that's not a shameless plug. It's a fact. It's a reality. Sit down at night after you've worked for 12 hours and dealt with that roof replacement or that window job or the carpet that got put in, and write an SOP. Write a job description. You only have 1 salesperson and it's your cousin. It doesn't matter. You still take a formalized job description. You don't have any place to put that. Download Google Drive and upload it on that. Create yourself a Google account, and that becomes your server. You don't say, I got the job description on the Google Drive. You say, I have the job description in the human resources file on the server. And you dress for the job that you want. There's you present yourself in that manner. If you're big and you're figuring out how to grow, I have 2 things. 1, invest in infrastructure. It's really important, right? So this is when you should start thinking about, okay, yes, I can add another salesperson. Yes, I can add this. But is it time to bring in a proper human resources person? Because it's hard to monetize those things because they don't equal sales. Is it time to bring in an operations director, right? Is it time to pony up and get a better software? Is it time to switch from a very simplistic CRM to something much bigger, right? And those are some of the challenges. You're kind of foundationally preparing yourself for the next race. So think of it like, you build a foundation. That's what I told the smaller guys to do. Then you build 10 stories on top of it. And what happens is people keep adding stories. And what they did is the foundation was only built for a 10-story business. They add 10 stories, then they keep growing. They add 20 stories, and guess what happens? The business falls over. You take a giant step back. So what you have to do is you have to realize when you've maximized your current footprint, your current foundation. And there's times that you're going to invest in leads and revenue, and then there's times that you're going to invest in infrastructure, operational procedures, and, preparing yourself, so to speak, for the next leg of the race. But it's really important. The most important thing I can say for big businesses that say, I think it's time for me to really take my business to the next level, not because I'm going to do twice as many sales next year, but because I'm going to put my big boy business pants on, and I'm going to bring a human resource director in here, and I'm going to bring a controller in here to do my accounting and fix our receivables. It's really important that when you do that, you don't lose sight of what made you successful. That's one of the biggest problems. People take their sales pitch, they throw it out. We're too big for the old 10-step selling process. We're going to stop doing the old referral home program, because they want to be something bigger than that, and they take what's working for them and they throw that out, kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So the advice for those big businesses is know when to stop building stories and reinvest and go back down to the first story and, reinforce that foundation, and then put another 10 stories on. But when you put that 10 stories on, don't forget how you built the first 10. A large percentage of what was working should continue to come through. And look, you don't have to take my word for that. You can read 1 million books that'll tell you that's one of the biggest operating errors that companies make. They want to redefine themselves. They want to be big business. They change everything that they were doing, and down they go.
Yeah. So that's great advice.
That's my advice, man.
Now if they're located in the DMV,
listen, if you're located, don't do anything. You guys should just get out of here. I think the market's collapsing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Patrick, this has been great. Really appreciate the time. And because I brought you on as the first guest, I'll have to bring you on, when you're like the 100th guest.
Okay, cool.
And then maybe I'll be a little more polished. And I know you've got a ton of information to share with everybody. So appreciate it.
I do. Thanks for the time. And I hope some people find it valuable. And, what I always say at those conferences, if you learn one thing, it was worth listening. Right? So if you learn one thing, if you take one thing away from it, it's worth listening. So thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Well, that'll do it for today's show. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode of Leaps and Bounds. If you did, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review, and subscribe to the podcast. We look forward to bringing you more exclusive conversations with some of the most successful home improvement leaders. If you're interested in learning more about Leap, be sure to check us out at leaptodigital.com or follow one of our social channels. Until next time, see you.